Hey everybody, welcome to season 4 of What's IGN Crushing On. I'm Karen Walby-Solomon and I'm your host, and we're here to talk about what's hot in pop culture. Today's episode is brought to you by Syntech. Syntech is a technology company that sources and distributes industry-leading products and brands from around the world. Welcome to episode 15. This is our final episode of season 4, and we have a great show for you. We chatted to Rosemary Zimu, Nthati Moshesh, and Ncamane from Savage Beauty, the new local series on Netflix. Rosemary plays Ncamane. Nthati plays the amazing Grace. Like, if she doesn't win a SAFTA for this, I don't know. And then John plays Calvin in the show. We're going to talk a little bit more about Savage Beauty later. Savage Beauty was released last week on Netflix. But we want to give you guys some time to watch it before we delved a little bit deeper into it. But hi, Leanne. Sorry, I forgot to introduce you. Hi, Leanne. How you doing?
It's me. I'm back. I'm good. How are you? How's your week?
My week was great. I'll never forget that episode. I think who did we have on the show? I can't remember. I think somebody was on the show. A couple of weeks ago when Theo, our great listener, friend of the pod, was like, "Oh, I didn't even know Leanne was on the pod until she popped up halfway through because I didn't introduce you." So I just want people to know you are here. So yeah, this is our last episode for season 4, which season 4 is the first part of 2022 season. And we've had a really great season. I don't know what you think, Leanne.
It was a lot. I mean, it started off with a bang. I mean, for the listeners who don't know, I kind of only really started getting involved in helping to produce the podcast this year. I've always been supporting Karen and stuff in the background, but this year I kind of stepped up and was like, you have a lot going on. You're going back to varsity, doing it all. So amazing, but you need to focus on your studies. So I'll help out with social and stuff like that. And I feel like this year started with a bang, from being able to host events to getting all the amazing guests that we've got on, to be able to do giveaways with amazing partners like Morbius and Blacklight. And so, yeah, I just think the season's it's amazing to see the growth from where we've come. It's less than 2 years, and you started this thing just, because you wanted to, and now it's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, I have no words.
It is really fun because, I don't think people know this, but when I was like, oh, I'm going to start a podcast, you were the first person who I was like, okay, I need to test my interview skills. So can I just do a Zoom call with you? So your episode is episode 3, but that was actually the first interview I did because it was so rough that we had to edit it a lot because I was like, my voice was super high, and I'm like, what would you say there? Anyway,
Also, we recorded in the middle of lockdown, and I think the original recording is an hour and a half or something stupid, because we were just chatting and going off on tangents, no focus at all. It was a mess.
So if we look at that and where we are right now, we have come a long way. Now we have time limits, and we have points, and we actually have more than me saying maybe we will talk about this. So we see where the conversation takes us. But as you said, we had a very interesting season. I mean, our first ever Crashing On movie night was such a success. I mean, I didn't think we would have a movie theater filled with, people, our friends and family and people who listen to the show. It was so lovely. And, just seeing the response from people who have won prizes, people who have been to our events, people who listen to the show has been extremely humbling. So I just want to go through what season 4 has brought us thus far. So our first episode, we spoke with writer and editor Pearl Bosherman, who is amazing on socials. Like, if you guys don't follow Pearl, I don't know what you're doing. Also, she's the editor of the of Tagged Online, which keeps producing amazing content.
So good. Such a fun chat.
Yeah, that was a great chat. Like, we were like in the middle, like we were just like laughing. Like, I think I had to edit. We had to edit out laughing. Like Rebecca had to edit it out because we were just like having a good time. And then our second episode, we spoke to Mvalasi Papeta, who's also like a pop culture expert. Like, he knows everything about everybody.
So
But
much knowledge. Keeping up was like intense that episode for me. I was like, I'm out of my depth here.
but also when he talks about the royal family, like I can't deal. It's so his knowledge about it and the way he talks about them. Ah, brilliant. And then we spoke to film and TV reviewer Gabi Zietzman about the Oscar nominated films of 2022. So she reviews quite a bit, and she had quite a like intense knowledge about the different films and her perceptions about them. And then we spoke to comedian Kate Pinchak, who was in the film Late Bloomer, and we spoke about that as well as Tully's Baby Diary, which she was also in. She's really funny, and you guys should support her stand up. Support women in stand up in general, but Kate is the real deal.
So
Um,
good.
then then you're just like so good. And then we spoke to Katrina Law, which was now and then we like I choose a guest for me because like somebody that I just really want to chat to. And when we got the opportunity to interview Katrina, I was like, yes, because I was a big fan of her character in Arrow. Like this I said that in the interview and I said that to her
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
I'm like, Nissa Al Ghul was like my everything. And I hated Arrow the show. But I love Nissa. And she was also really lovely. She was like sitting on the floor of her bedroom chatting to me, and then she had technical issues, and and then at one point her child walked in. Like obviously we edited that out because she's very private about her private life, but like her husband walked through in the back, the child came in, she's talking to her child, and then like it was so cute. Like it was just she was just so comfortable and so like authentic. And then for episode 6, we had our Euphoria roundtable with Sloan and Keenan Juster, and they were lovely. Also, I feel like I'm saying lovely a lot, but this was a very
It's a
popular episode
theme.
also because people had a lot of things to think and a lot of things to say about Euphoria, and we kind of went through quite a few of those topics when discussing the show at the end of the season. So yeah.
That's the stuff to work through to try and deal with.
And then we spoke to the cast of Young, Famous, and African. This has been one of my favorite reality shows that I've seen in 2022. And I said it on the show, so like, I'm not just saying it. I actually really, really enjoyed this show. And I feel like it was well edited, it was well cast. And I think that Kanimba was just such a good lead character. And and the way that they structured the storylines and the real life situations was just so well done. And then we spoke to Isha Blaka, who was in Medea Homecoming, about Tyler Perry and when he lived in South Africa, and he was a very sweet guy, and you could see he was a little bit like new to this and shy and stuff, but he's also like a world famous model, and he said, and he's lived a life, and he's lived in different countries, and just he was also a very interesting person to chat to. And then in episode 9, we had our Bridgerton roundtable with Fatima, Erin, and Kinsani. Those three was so well equipped for this roundtable. They came with their knowledge intact. They were
it
with their
was it was so fun to listen to just because, like you said, and everyone had a different perspective, which was so great. Like you could, it really like having watched Bridgerton and then listened to the episode, it just gave me so many different perspectives and viewpoints of like how to look at stuff with a different lens.
Mm.
Such a good episode.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed this one too. And it's another thing, like just like Euphoria, it was a show that people had a lot of opinions about. And we got to address many of those on the show. And then we spoke to Mike Cabellion, who is in Mr. Mayor with Ted Danson. And like, we were discussing this a little bit before we started recording, but we were very sad to find out that Mr. Mayor was cancelled. But
Mm.
Mike was also really nice. And I mean, when we were chatting about our love for Power Rangers and Conan O'Brien, it was he was just so down to earth. It was great. A lot of these internet, I must say, from my experience, a lot of these international stars are very like they just maybe they're used to these interviews, but they're just so like down to earth and like not as like as how I would expect them to be, if that
Mm.
makes sense.
Yeah, because you're
Um,
expecting them to be like these famous people which might have airs and graces or
mm,
might be a little bit formal, stuffy, all the
yeah.
things that you're expecting from someone you don't really know. But I mean, it definitely comes through on the episodes. You build such a great rapport with them, and they seem so down to earth and so ready to share their stories and their experiences with you and with us as listeners. So yeah, it's amazing to get to see a different side of the people you watch on screen.
And it's just so weird. Like I always go into every episode like uber nervous. And then by the end of it I'm like cool as a cucumber. I don't know, okay, maybe not as a cucumber, but I'm a lot more chilled than I was when I started. And then
Mm,
the two of us had a solo episode about the greatest 2000s comeback stories, which was kind of fun for us, I think, to just go back and talk about the starts of our youth. And then we
mm-hmm,
spoke to Nikki Lincoln, podcaster, writer, she blogger, she's done many, many things, content creator, about all the court cases and that sort of thing. And it was also kind of cool. She was really nice. What do you think,
mm.
Leanne?
I love that episode. I think it's just so I enjoy anything where you get to like think about like give different perspectives on stuff. So not just like talk about it, but
Mm,
actually like try and delve deeper in terms of like how we make sense of our world as humans and as a society. And so I really enjoyed chatting with Nikki about the cases in that because you just got to like it's not just giving you an update on where we are with the cases, but actually thinking about how do we view stuff, how do we perceive things, how do
mm.
we make a judgment call. And so like I loved that episode. I love being a part of that episode.
And then our last week, our magnum
Dun,
opus,
dun, dun, dun.
our greatest. I like. it's very difficult for me to talk about highlights when Oscar Isaac is right in front of you and he looks so good. I So last week we had an interview with Oscar Isaac and May Kalamawi from Moon Knight, and oh gosh, like what more can I say? I gushed so much in the beginning of that episode that like I feel like I have nothing left to say. But that was it. It was excellent. It was lovely. What more can I say? So we have had a very interesting season, and to top it off, we have this great chat with the cast of Savage Beauty. So if you haven't had a chance to watch Savage Beauty, the show basically is 15 years ago, Don and Grace Bengu tested a toxic product on a group of children living in the streets. Now, one of the two survivors, Zinhle Manzini, returns to seek revenge. Zinhle becomes the invisible force that exposes family secrets, leading the Bengus down a path of destruction. But innocent people get hurt along the way, while Zinhle's own darkness threatens to consume her. Zinhle has to decide whether she wants justice or pure cold revenge. So, what it doesn't say in the official synopsis is that so basically, Don and Grace Bengu they have a beauty company, and in her path for revenge, Zinhle works her way to become the face of this beauty company. And when you become the face of Bengu Beauty, you have to live in the Bengu mansion. You become sort of like part of the family, and she uses that kind of like logic and knowledge to take down the family because of what they did to her and her I want to say I don't want to give away too much. Okay, her and her siblings. Let's just put it like that. Um, but like, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I was that show kept on surprising me. When I went in, it's a little bit of like Revenge. It's a little bit like Succession. It reminds you of quite a bit of shows. There was another show I was also thinking of when I watched it. I was like, this reminds me of, but I can't think of the name right now. And it's very sexy, very like the production level is like on another level. It just looks beautiful. Everybody looks stunning. The costumes are great. Like, yeah, number one. And then I was like, I never knew where it was gonna go next. Like, I had
Mm.
ideas. I'd be like, I think this is gonna happen. And I like a show that surprises me. So Savage Beauty 100% surprised me. So you'll see in the interview, I ask them like, what like decision that your character made shocked you the most? And I think it was Rosemary who said she's like everything. Like every time I turned the page, I was like, huh? What? And there's something that happens, and I want to say episode 6 that I was like, I'm like, she's not gonna go there. She's not gonna go there, and then she goes there, and I'm like, oh. But anyway, it's
I
like, and
can
also
tell
it
that this
feels.
is a good one based on how you
It's
are gushing. Like,
just like it feels very brave for a South African show. Like I think South African shows tend to like lean towards the more conservative, and
mm,
this one, like, I mean, there probably, if you analyze it, there will be aspects of it that does, but like it's just I found it extremely brave, and it also talks about colorism in a way that
ooh,
I don't think has been spoken about so blatantly and so, like profoundly like it has been in this show. So I really enjoyed it. It has a talented team of actors. Like Dumasani Mbebe as Don Bengu
mm,
was unnaturally good. Sam Ntati, like as I said earlier, like she needs to get a SAFTA for this. The entire cast is brilliant, and yeah, if you're looking for a good thriller, something that's local but feels different or anything, like I would recommend Savage Beauty. Like for me, this is a great show. So this is our conversation with Rosemary Zimu, Nthati Moshesh, and John Kabani. As I always, like, I try to explain, because it's audio and you can't see who's talking. Rosemary speaks first, and then Nthati, and then obviously John, because he's the only male there. But you'll get it. Here's our interview. Hi guys, how are you doing?
We're good. How
Good. How are you
are
doing?
you?
I'm great. So okay, let's get started. So what drew you to Savage Beauty as a project? You can go in order.
The storytelling, and the fact that it dabbles, well, it tackles the whole subject of the beauty industry. We haven't told a story like this before.
Yeah.
There have been a lot of documentaries, but we haven't really spoken about what the beauty industry in this country is all about. So that for me was what drew me to this project. It was the story itself, the subject itself.
Adding on to that, the characters, they're also strong and powerful in their own way. I think the fact that it's leading female Black characters just put the cherry on top for me. And just how we were all able to bring them to life, amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, no, I echo their sentiments. They're spot on, and I guess their themes as well, because though it's set in a South African context, colorism is international in a way.
Yeah.
Throughout Africa, the diaspora in Asia as well. So this is something that, thankfully, with a platform like Netflix, everybody can have a look at and kind of be like, whoa.
Yeah.
This is something that I'm dealing with in my set country or in another country, and everybody can kind of like, all right, it's a sticking point or something that we can actually have a conversation and really, really think about. So the themes, David and Goliath, an SME going against the SOE. Oh, I beg your pardon, or corporate. SME versus a corporate behemoth. It's a David and Goliath story, and it's a tale as old as time, where you have. What did I say earlier? I used another analogy. Please remind me. But
Not the chess one.
It was a good one. It was a good analogy. I totally forgot it.
It's okay.
Snap. It'll
all right.
come back to me at some point. But yeah, it's the little guy, the person who's been aggrieved going up against the institution in a way, and the only way that the institution can listen, in this particular case, to the small person is through violence.
Yeah.
Because that's sometimes the language of the oppressed. Because that's the only language that those in power can sometimes only listen to, or most of the time only listen to. So, yeah.
So how would you describe your character?
Puppet master. She pulls the strings. She manipulates the situation to her ends. So, and she's the king of a queendom.
Yeah.
She's the queen bee.
Zintle, I describe her as the pot stirrer and kind of the evil chef. She's stirring and she's just adding, and she's like, okay, this is hot, but I'm gonna add some more chili, and this is, that's her.
That's lovely, actually.
That's her. That is Zintle for me. And doing it with a smile on her face, yeah.
Yeah.
The loyal pawn to Grace's queen and Don's king. Chess analogy. But yeah, so, I put myself as one of the pieces that I move where I'm told to move, how I'm supposed to move and sort. So that's who I am. Loyal pawn to the greater cause.
Oh, shame, Kulube.
But when I was watching, I found the characters very distinct. But what I found interesting was that it feels like you guys sort of fleshed out the characters for yourselves, besides what was on the screen, in your facial expressions, in the way you moved. So who were your inspirations when you were sort of developing the character in your own mind?
For me, it was my cousin, Nakedi Rubani, who was a supermodel way back in the early 80s, and she wrote a book on the beauty industry in South Africa. And then someone like Estee Lauder, because I grew up on her products. My mom used her products, I used her products. So that was my inspiration. But more than that, I think it's just the ordinary South African women out there. There's so many Graces, there's so many Zintles, there's so many Tandos out there, and that's my inspiration. So sometimes the inspiration is a lot closer than what you think.
True. My inspiration was Zintle, the character, what I saw on the paper. It was her, because I can't say just one specific person, because I took many things from many different people through my research of becoming Zintle. And most of my research was done through documentaries based on true stories. So I can't say one individual person definitely, but I'm saying Zintle because I put everyone in her. So I became her. That's why I cannot say anybody inspired. She inspired herself into me.
I think I looked at a host of conflicted characters. Those that go on a journey which is, I guess, somewhat redemptive in nature. So I'm big into sci-fi. So I looked at kind of those, and I was like, okay, I can track this story, and it's somewhat similar. I can take this and this and this, and put it in. But essentially, I did the groundwork was, along with Lebogang, our incredible writer, having to have multiple conversations with him. He could paint a clearer picture into the backstory of the character. So when he made it personal for me by saying he took it from there and there and there from his story, I was like, I know exactly where to draw from. I was like, okay, that totally makes sense. And I could look close, not too far away from home, at least, in drawing inspiration, so it came from a multitude of places.
Nice.
Yeah.
one of the things that I loved was also the different plot twists. So when reading the scripts, what surprised you the most about your character that you didn't expect?
Everything. Everything. Every single thing. um, there was just always something with Zintle all the time. And just how every time a plan worked out, she's already on to the next one. I think that really kind of set me back. Like, is she not going to sit down and have some tea? And be like, okay, I did that. No, she went straight into the next mission. And it would shock me every time. And now when shooting it, it was worse. It became very scary, but fun. So yeah, everything.
Yeah, my element of surprise was how deeply Grace loves Don. And now you're with a man who you've become very invisible to, and how that must feel, where you've been married to someone, you've built an empire together, and suddenly, it seems like overnight, but suddenly it's just, he stops looking at you in a certain way, and what that does to any female who's in a relationship like a Don and Grace, and the hurt. But now, because it's all about presentation, it's all about image, it's all about the brand, you don't show that to the world. But now it's also the public versus the private person. And that I found so intriguing. So it was this deep love that Grace actually has for her husband.
Brilliant.
For me, it was his level of devotion. No way. That blew me away. I couldn't believe it.
Like, why?
I couldn't believe it. Through everything, I was like, how? I was like, there's no way. And I know, humans are not logical beings. We are far from it, in fact. But through everything, I was like, listen, bro, there's some point you need to have a little bit of self-respect. You know, I was like, this does not make any sense. Through everything, honestly, I was like, nah, this is too much. There ain't no way. Ain't no way. You know, so that totally caught me by surprise. But having lived a little bit, and it's been a little bit of time since we shot, you get to understand, and through paying attention, I beg your pardon, and observing life and just going through it, you just kind of be like, I guess maybe I get it. I get it. There's a part of me that will kind of relate to that. But it's still shocking, you know.
Dudes, grow some pain.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
Where's your backbone?
hey, man. Yo.
When he's in love. Love makes you crazy.
Yeah, love does make you do crazy things.
Love makes you
And
crazy.
there's no logic.
But guys, thank you so much. Love the show. Can't wait for everybody else to see it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Karen.
you. Thank you so much.
That was our interview with Rosemary Zimu, Nthati Moshesh, and John Ncamane. You can watch Savage Beauty now on Netflix worldwide. Solly Anne, our final crushing on for season 4. What you going to leave the listeners with as recommendations?
I actually watched stuff this week. How exciting!
Oh, yay.
I had time at home. So I started watching 2 things. I have not finished them, but I am very excited about them. The first one is A Suitable Boy on Netflix. It is a limited series made by Mira, and it's set in... I know. It's set in southern India just after the partition. And it tells a very interesting story of a young girl who, well, youngish, who's in varsity and it's time for her to get married. She's the youngest and her elder sister is married. And so it's time for her to get married and they need to try and find her a groom. But in true Bollywood style, she falls in love with someone that she shouldn't fall in love with. So she's from a Hindu family and he is Muslim. And because of the tensions around the partition, there are obviously reasons why they can't be together. But it also tells, like, I was expecting it to be just based on the trailer, like just this one story. But what they've done so well is actually bleed in the narrative of everyone around her. So the family that her sister marries into also has a young son, and then he has his own forbidden love story. His friend at some point meet someone, and that's a forbidden love story. Like, there's just all of these different places that it goes. So it's not just romance. It also tells this incredible backstory of how there used to be landowners, and landowners basically controlled all the wealth, and the people who worked for them or who were under their guardianship on the lands as laborers were basically slaves. And so at some point there's a political drama unfolding as they're trying to pass reform bills to make more equitable land ownership, or just redistribute the wealth. And so there's just so much going on, and it's so beautifully done, and they touch on such amazing topics. I'm halfway in. I think it's only 6 episodes. They're about an hour each, but it's so beautiful and so well done, and like just giving you a glimpse of what life at that time in that place was like. Yeah, so that's the one part. Not the lightest piece of viewing, but very, very good. And then on the other end of the spectrum, I started A Discovery of Witches on Showmax. It stars Teresa Palmer and, oh good, Matthew Good. And
Matthew, good.
I
Yes.
know, yeah. Because I've never been like a massive, like, yeah, okay, cool, he's there. But then I started watching the show and I was like, okay, cool, I get it. I see it. I see what's going on here. And it is very much a supernatural situation, but like I like it because it's done differently to the stuff I've seen before. So it's a lot more mature than like a Vampire Diaries or a Teen Wolf or a Twilight. Like it's obviously in that realm of supernatural, like you're dealing with witches and vampires and demons and all of that stuff. But it's just, yeah, at the moment, like normally when you watch supernatural things, and I don't know if this is just me, but like you find the plot holes and the ridiculousness, and then it becomes like amusing and like, it's entertaining, but it's not very realistic. Whereas what they've done really well with this one is like, because it's set in like a university, and I mean, I'm still in the plot building phase of season one. So, but like so far, they've managed to keep the lore and the reasons for being in the show realistic. If I can put it that, I don't know if I'm making sense, but yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's fun. It's not as cheesy and like schmaltzy as I thought it would be. It's really good.
Sounds great. That's actually two great recommendations for me for our off season. I'm excited to watch. For me, not as great, but so I've been, as you mentioned at the top of the episode, I'm very busy with my studies, so I haven't had a lot of time to watch for pleasure. I've been doing quite a few assignments on Bridgerton, so I've been rewatching Bridgerton quite a bit. But other than that, I have. So at night, sometimes I'm like, I'm not ready to sleep, but my brain is too dead to do any work. So I tend to I watch AP Bio. And
Oh, love it.
yeah, so that's like my numbing show. Not that it's like a dumb show. It's just like it doesn't take much brain power to watch.
Yeah,
I
no, it's
actually,
frivolous and fun and gorgeous. Yeah,
yeah.
it's
I was first like the first season I was like meh because I really didn't like the main character. I found him really annoying and I
yeah.
wanted to strangle him for most of the show. But I really love the children in the class. So I was like, they what got me back. So I've been watching more and I just like I don't mind him as much anymore. Like I'm still not when I read the comments like after the episode on TV Time and people are like, "Oh, I ship him with this one. I love this." I'm like, I don't really care what he does with his life, but
Mm,
I just love the children so much. Like
yeah,
and
it's
watching their
great
characters
ensemble
grow,
cast.
watching their characters go, and them like talking back to him. Like when he tells the one boy, there's like this scene in the episode I watched like in the week where he tells the one boy to slap Marcus, and that boy was like, looks at him, he's like, I don't feel like getting up, and then he just carries on with the class. But I found that hilarious, like, and
Oh,
it wasn't like a plot
Stephen,
point.
Stephen and I are like obsessed with the girl with the glasses.
Heather,
Heather, the episode where
yes,
Heather goes to his house and sees the picture of Jesus, and she's like, "Who's this hotcake?" Like,
I love her. Hey, boss, when she calls him boss all the time. And when he
obsessed.
said,
Yeah.
and when he says like, I'm leaving you everything, um, in his, oh gosh, yeah, no. So that's my like my show that I watch when I need something to just, it's on Netflix. I know what people tend to do is they tend to rewatch the shows that they come to, or New Girl, Friends, that sort of thing. I don't know. I feel like I don't like, sometimes I rewatch certain episodes of shows, but I like trying new things. So at least I feel like I'm doing something new. So
Mm.
so if you're looking for a new show to try, AP Bio I would suggest. And then also I've been reading the book Circe by Madeline Miller. So I know her first book, Song of Achilles, is super popular, but I never read that, and I will read that afterwards. But I was very intrigued by Circe because basically it tells the story of Circe from Greek mythology, and Circe is usually seen as a villain because she's a witch, and she's had all these like problematic issues with very famous heroes like Jason and the Argonauts and Telemachus and all of that sort of stuff, and obviously Odyssey, but Odysseus. What am I saying? Odysseus in the Odyssey, but like she's always seen as a villain, and this novel sort of like tells the story from her perspective, and it kind of shows her in a different light. And Madeline Miller is a historian as well as an author, but she also writes really well. So I'm really enjoying this book. I'm not done with it yet. Every time I read it, I almost like feel like I'm lost in this world that she creates. And she does such a great job of making Circe a compelling character, but also a sympathetic one too. And it's an interesting way of like how we approach characters depending on who's telling the story. Like as we
Mm.
spoke about with the different lawsuits with Nikki, it feels like that. Like we maybe her story was wrong. Maybe because we're seeing it from this perspective, we're seeing it from
Mm.
Odysseus' perspective, we're not seeing it from hers. So brilliant book. If you like Greek mythology, or if any of the things I said interest you, I suggest you give Circe a try. It's also quite popular. Like I feel like all the books I suggest are books that everyone has already read, but and I'm just late to the
I haven't
party.
read them, so you're giving me
so,
options here.
so yeah, so that's my suggestion. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. Don't forget to watch Savage Beauty and keep your eye on our socials, and we will announce when season 5 will be releasing. We have some great interviews lined up for season 5, some great conversations. So, yeah, guys, we will see you when we see you. Today's episode is brought to you by Syntec. Syntec is a technology company that sources and distributes industry-leading products and brands from around the world.
Me, you can find at Karen Welby on Instagram, at Karen Welbys with an S on Twitter, and sign up for my newsletter, Wildest Dreams, at wildestdreams.substack.com. The podcast can be found at Crushing on Pod on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. You can find us at What's IGN Crushing On YouTube, and you can find more information about this and all our other episodes on our website, crushingonpodcast.com. Send any feedback to mail@crushingonpodcast.com, and you can send us voice notes at +27 78362 2566. Join our Facebook group, Crushing On Club, where we chat about the show, celebrity news, recommendations, the whole shebang. The show is produced by me, Karen, as well as Rebecca Barches and Leanne Phillipson. The show was edited by Rebecca Barches. Our logo was designed by Nthati Moshesh, and the show was created in partnership with IGN Africa. If you like the show, tell everyone that you can, any way that you can. Keep up to date with episodes by subscribing to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please rate and review the episodes on Apple Podcasts, as it helps others to find the show. We'll be back next week with another in-depth conversation with a pop culture lover. See you then.